Racing. And we have another Cyclone engine once again, but not naturally aspirated this time. Well, it is now, but it's not gonna be. We're installing an NPG Turbo Kit into this car, so we're gonna go ahead and get on it. We're gonna show you a step-by-step how we do it so that you can install yours at home. So step number one, guys, go ahead and remove your front bumper. You guys should basically know, if you're gonna install a turbo kit, you should probably know how to do that. But to make it easy, you're gonna take the top piece off. There's a couple different clips that go on. You're gonna remove those clips to remove this top piece. Then there's basically 2 bolts on either side, right down here, and on the other side. And there's a couple screws or bolts holding the under pieces on. We've already gone ahead and removed those because those are really simple. And if you guys are working on your car already, you should probably be able to handle that. So next step, literally, we're just gonna pull it up in the air, and we're gonna start by removing the exhaust. What we're doing now, like I said, is removing the exhaust. This is one of the mid pipes. This car was already equipped with some BBK shorties and the catless extensions. So these extension pipes, or mid pipes, we just went ahead and removed. There's literally 2 nuts that go on to the either stock or BBK shorties or eBay shorties, whatever you got. Once you take those off, you loosen these 2. These are 15 millimeters, and that's what connects to your X pipe. So we took these both off. Also make sure to unclip your O2 sensors. If you have these extensions from BBK, they're super easy to unclip. Just reach up in there, unclip them first, instead of trying to undo them. If you do have an O2 socket, which I recommend buying from Harbor Freight, they're literally like $4 or $5. They fit these perfectly and allow you to use a ratchet on them so that you can get them off really easy. I highly recommend those. So after we've got those mid pipes off, you're gonna loosen those same 15 millimeters right here. After they're loosened, just wiggle them and they'll come off. Some will be tighter, some won't be. This is a BBK Catless X pipe. This car sounded pretty good. Now these right here are basically the rear over axle pipes to whatever exhaust system he has, which looks like it's basically deleted. So we're gonna leave these because it's not gonna be in our way when we're doing the turbo kit. So they're gonna stay there. Okay, so we just took off the BBK shorty headers. They basically have, as you can see, 6 bolts or 6 studs with nuts on them, depending on how you put them on. You can go ahead and leave the exhaust gaskets if they're the metal ones. You want the metal OEM ones still on, so leave them still on your studs, and if you can, leave your studs in the motor. So we took both these off. So these look like the BBK ceramic shorties. These are a pretty good buy, but this turbo kit does not reuse stock style shorties. It has its own turbo manifolds with V-bands. So these are going in the parts bin. The next step, we got the car back on the ground. Now, I'm gonna pause for a second, and you can do this, guys, in your garage at home. You can do it on jack stands. But for us, we have a lift, so we're gonna use it, and it's much easier for us to film using our lift so you guys can actually see what we're doing. So we're gonna move on. We're gonna uninstall the cold air intake. Now this is a BBK unit, works pretty good, but we don't need it. So first step in installing one of these intakes, always remove your MAF sensor first. So it's a little red clip. No, I can't do it with gloves on. It's a little red clip on the bottom here. You pop that little red clip, give her a squeeze, and then it should slide right out. There we go. Now, literally we can use a flat tip or like an 8 millimeter to pop these off. And then sometimes there's a bolt down on the bottom. So we'll go ahead and take that off. Back bolt, 10 millimeter. That's what holds your intake on. So we're gonna take that off, and then we'll go ahead and move on and remove that one, and this whole thing should come off. We went ahead and we just used a flat tip screwdriver to loosen up that clamp. But if you notice, this is still stuck. It's stuck right here. So we just popped off our front plate. There was nothing holding it on anymore. These are 2 10 millimeters. We'll take them off, which will allow us to remove the cover. We'll put that right back on because it doesn't need to come off. That way we don't lose any screws. There we go. Now this BBK can essentially just pop off. We got a couple of vacuum hoses to pull off. And there we go. this is off, we'll move on. So if you guys still have this piece right here, this is basically your like cold air induction that comes from the front bumper. This is where our piping goes. This is coming off. You literally are gonna just kind of basically yank it because it's stuck right here on the radiator. So we're gonna pull it out like that. It's got a couple plastic clips, you pull it out. And then the front piece is right here. It's this shroud. Now it's got a clip that goes here and one a little lower. Once you pull those out, it should come right out. And then on the bottom, there'll be another clip for some wiring for your air temperatures out, exterior air temperature sensor. Once you pull that off, you're good. 2 more pieces and go in the parts bin. So we're gonna basically be rerouting all of the vacuum lines because they're gonna become boost reference lines and some still vacuum, but we're gonna be rerouting them. So we're gonna go ahead and pop it off the firewall so that it is not in our way. There we go. And we can just loop it up here. And then this one that's attached to the valve cover, I'm gonna push that little clip and it's gonna go off and sit on the table waiting to see if we use it again. So now guys, we're going to go ahead and install the headers or the exhaust manifolds. Now, this is one of the manifolds for the turbo kit. This is a stock manifold. Some turbo kits that we don't recommend will reuse a stock or a shorty style from like eBay or one of those, even a BBK, but we do not recommend any of those because they have a ball fitting. They leak. V-band doesn't leak as much. These headers fit with 0 modifications. Literally just pull your old ones off, stick these on. It's a 1/2 inch drive. We're gonna go ahead and stick them on. We already got this side on, so we're gonna do this one. So the next step, once we have our exhaust manifolds on, is we're actually going to put on the O2 sensors. Now we're using O2 sensors off of the stock mid pipes, so we're going to use a O2 socket wrench. You can get this at like Harbor Freight or Amazon, guys, for a couple bucks. Seriously, even if you do it one time, it's worth it for the $6. You're not going to round anything off. Literally, it slides over the wires. You put it on, and it will literally break it free. Once it's free and unplugged, just spin them off. Now, we're gonna put some anti-seize on, just a dab. And then we're gonna go ahead and put it in the manifold. See, we got our anti-seize on. It's easy to get to. We're gonna leave it unplugged. The plug is right up there. So before we do anything else to get it in the way, we're gonna put this on tight. So this is the driver's side, again, tons of clearance, literally right beside the steering shaft, but tons of room to go ahead and put it on. Do it with it unplugged, get your wrench on there, get it tight, and then we're just gonna reach up and plug her in. So next, guys, when we're getting ready to drop the other extension piece out of our manifold, if you notice, this is in the way. Now this is our starter, and that's the solenoid. So we're gonna pull off the main power wire. That's a 13 millimeter, because our pipe is going right through here. So basically we're gonna pull that off, and we're gonna shove it back in that way, so that we are flipped around like so. It's kind of a pain in the butt, and we can get that nut on there and then tighten that 13 millimeter down, but like I said, it's kind of a pain in the butt to do. I'll get the socket on there and get it tight, but that's how it goes. So the next part we're going to install, guys, is our oil adapter plate. It's pretty simple. I've already put 4 blanks in it just because I don't know which one we want to use yet, and we have enough room here that we'll be able to get to all of them, so they're on nice and tight. Now the way that this goes on is it has a rubber seal. You can see on that side, rubber seal, and it's got this bushing nut type deal. So the rubber seal is obviously just like our oil filter. It's gonna go up against the engine, and this seal part is going to go around the back side. Now that's going to literally tighten itself on, and as that tightens on, it will pinch it to the engine, and then our oil filter will be able to screw on to the back side, and it will seal to the blank metal like that. So we're going to go ahead and slide this one on, and we'll start spinning it. Don't worry about where this is pointed yet, because it doesn't matter, and it will be able to be adjusted. We're just going to tighten that down. So I'm just going to kind of aim it so we can kind of get to all the lines. We can always move it later. So there we go. It's on fairly tight. So there you go. That's how that adapter plate works, guys. So for the driver's side, basically, not down pipe, but the driver's side mid pipe, to get it through where the engine mount is and the power steering is, you're gonna have to loosen the engine mount from the top of the motor. Super easy to get to from the top. It's a 15 millimeter. Just loosen it up all the way to the top, and then either using a jack or something with a piece of wood under your oil pan, we're simulating that right now, you're gonna lift it up. That'll give you enough clearance to be able to slide the end that does not have the movable piece on it through. And you're just going to stick it in there and kind of wiggle it until you find the right angle that goes through. You're going to have to kind of rotate it and flip it and rotate it and flip it. And then just kind of wiggle it. And you can get it to go far enough back so that you can flip the front pipe up, and then basically we'll flip that over. Once you twist this up in here, guys, it's going to meet up and go just like so and seal nice and tight. Then what you're going to do is get your V-band clamp on here. And this is probably easiest with a buddy to hold it. But basically, you have to line them up and then put the V-band over it and then slowly tighten it up. So once you get that lined up and you know it's lined up, you can go ahead and tighten down your V-band. Now, just remember, guys, this is going to be about 8 millimeter. I always start it just basically with wrist movements because we got a long way to go and it's going to need to be a deep well eventually. But the main thing about it is you don't want to over tighten it. So I always just try and do it like just with my wrist or with a 1/4 inch drive, because even though these are really good vibrant V-bands, you can still snap them. So once you've already adjusted your starter cables, this one basically slides in and it's going to slide up right to there. And then it'll line up just like so. There we go. Just like so. And we'll get the V-band and clamp it down. Pretty simple, guys. Once you get that on there, just tighten it down. Again, being careful. They don't need to be as tight as you think they need to be. Probably good. Moving on to the cooling system, guys. After we got the up pipe, and the other up pipe is just over there basically, we have to put the pipe that goes right here. However, to do that, we have to get rid of our stock setup. So we have an aftermarket tank. If you select it, this is the one that comes with the NPG kit. Half of it is reserved for methanol, and this front half is just your overflow reservoir, just like right here. So basically we have to make all these lines right here fit that one. Mounting is easy. There's literally just a hole right here that's already in your strut tower brace. So all we did is put a bolt through it. We put a little rubber grommet to help it. And then that's just a self-tapper and a washer on this side. And as you can see, she's pretty snug. So I'm gonna move some hoses around and I'll show you guys once I get it done and how I do it. What we did, guys, was we went ahead and we used the line that went ahead and ran from the water pump to the stock top. We took that off, and then we ran that basically to the middle, and I just had one of these cheap T's. And on this cheap T, we took the other piece that went from here all the way over to there, and we cut it, and we just literally cut it in half, and we took off this little piece, just that amount. That's all we took off of it, and the rest literally just went on here and then there with the T in the middle. So that is now our water hookup for our coolant hookup for the top part. Now we just have to do the bottom, and I was leaking here, so I need to put a nipple on that. So we went ahead and we removed the coolant reservoir. That's two 10mm bolts that go right here on the radiator. I'm literally going to put them back in just because if you want to return to stock, if the customer does ever, that way you actually have these. So we'll stick them back in. But now all we have to do is we have to redo our hose system right here, which is the hose out of our water pump, the hose from the heater in the back, and then the one that went to the bottom. So basically we need to make this hose on the bottom connect all the way over here to our tank. So this is the one thing you're probably gonna have to go buy when you do this kit, is you're gonna have to buy some of this hose. So we're gonna go get some of that and then we'll get back. So these are the next two pieces we're working with, guys. First one is this bracket. That basically goes right about there, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And then we're installing our last basically piece of hot side piping. So this literally just drops down in. Once you get the coolant stuff out of the way, you're just gonna basically wiggle it until you're under all the AC stuff. And over that one. And then this piece lines up right there. And we're gonna put a V-band on that one. And then on the other side, and this is the other side, and we're gonna do the top first, and then we will end up V-banding that together. We're gonna install this bracket. To start off, the vertical bracket that goes from the top of the intake down to the block, we're gonna remove the bottom bolt. So that's an 8mm. Go ahead and remove that one, set it aside. And then we're gonna take a 10mm, and we're gonna remove this valve cover bolt, okay? And we're gonna get it to that point, and then we're gonna have to get a screwdriver or our fingers and we're gonna pop it completely out. I'm gonna get a screwdriver. So what we want is we want all this out. So you're gonna pull that out, set it aside, and then we're gonna pull this next one. We're gonna pull this next one right here, this corner one. You see that? We're gonna pull this one off. So same thing, we're gonna get the screwdriver, or whatever you got, a pair of pliers, and just pull all that rubber and everything out, because we're swapping where they go. Now sometimes these can be a bit of a pain in the butt to get out. So, you see the difference in these right here. We're going to put this one back where this one was. So we'll start it by hand. So we got it. Get that started by hand. And then we'll gun it down. Now once that's on, basically this bracket is going to go back here like this. It's going to go on top of that one, and it's going to slide down here to this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually take off that brace, guys. It's not actually needed. So this brace is going to say bye-bye, at least for us. If you want to find a way to put it on, go ahead and do it. But this screw is going to go right in there like so. like that, and that brace is now super stiff. So what that leaves us with is the ability to move this around so that we can line up these two holes and put 2 bolts in there. The bolts right here come in the kit, guys. These 4 are basically going to be the ones that are holding on your turbo, and then they have these 2 and that guy, a couple of washers and a nut. Now between these 2 and this one and these washers and nuts, that's what we're actually going to hold that brace to our actual the up pipe. So we're going to go ahead and mount the 2 of these or this one. We'll see which one works with these, and we'll show you how to do it. This nut that's included in the kit is the one that goes onto the top. Super simple, really easy. 10 millimeter. Put it on. Does not have to be super tight. We're literally just going to snug it up so that it's not just jiggling and free spinning. There we go. So that one's on. So that bracket is now super secure. Now we did notice that this bolt is longer. So we're going to remove this 8 millimeter, and then I think we can actually put in our bracket again. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to remove that little one. See how it's really small? We have this longer one. So what we can do is we can kind of see the spot that's almost there, but we're going to kind of have to angle them to get them to actually work because it's not quite able to make it through. We're going to start this one, and then we're going to put this bigger one and get it through and started as well. So you're going to want to loosen that up a little bit. And we're going to tighten the top one first, 8 millimeter. Then we're going to swap to the bottom, which is a 10. And that was already started by hand. Go, and then we'll just snug this one down too. Okay. That way all 3 of those bolts are on. This thing's not going anywhere. We're going to take one of these Allen headed bolts and we're going to slide it through the bracket on the bottom up into the flange. Now the flange itself is actually threaded, so we're going to thread it in from the bottom, and this bottom piece we're actually going to thread once we put that top one all the way together. That way we can tighten this top one, and it's going to thread in, and then we'll put a nut on the back. So this is one of those things that is just going to take you a hot minute to do, because everything's in the way of it. So now for the fun part, guys. Don't drop stuff. You got the studs. You're going to put all 4 studs right here into the top. You see we got this bolted on. We may have had some issues with it, but it's bolted on now. Your guys's should come with 2 drilled holes, or at least 1 drilled hole. So you should put a bolt through, tighten them up. So we're going to sandwich these all the way down, as much as we can get them. And then our turbo gets to go on. It's like I said, the fun part. Don't forget to put your gasket on. I said the fun part. So now, it'll be time where we're gonna have to set this on, and then we'll start playing with clocking the turbo. But, that is always a really fun part to do, because guess what? She's on there as much as we're going to get for the moment. So what I can basically see from doing this, guys, is that we have to pull the turbo apart to really get it on easily. So I knew we were going to have to do that because I've had to do it on every single one. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to separate the turbo, the turbine housing from the actual turbo itself. So we're going to loosen all of these bolts that go around and actually take them out, and separated, and then we're going to put just the housing on itself. Like I said, the fun part, mounting the turbo. So we pulled the turbo apart, we got the turbine housing, which is basically the hot side, the exhaust side. So I'm going to set it down with the gasket in place. We've tightened all of our studs down, but if you look, that stud, this back one, is basically touching. Now the issue with it basically touching is, how are we going to get a nut on? How you do it is, you lift the turbo up, and then you slowly can add that nut, and slide that nut down as you drop the turbo down. And once you do that, it's on. Your other three, since you've separated the housing, pretty much go on pretty easily. I never tighten them all the way up to get these first two, because shit always hits. Remember guys, always start everything by hand, get it down, and then you can cinch it up tight. So these are 15 millimeter. Put them on nice and tight, because you got to remember you're going to be having all sorts of hot exhaust here. You do not want these to be loose. Okay guys, so we're getting the turbo ready here. Now the first thing we did was we went ahead and put on the top, that's the oil feed. Now that has a pinhole on the other side of it. It has these Allen head tops. We had to get a different one because we couldn't find the one that was supposed to come with this one, so we just had this one on another turbo. This one down here. So we yanked it off of this one, but it's going to look the exact same, and it's made so that you can put the high pressure oil line right onto it as an AN fitting. So that's the one you want. And the bottom is the outlet or the drain, and that is basically in how your guys are going to get it, just like we did. It's going to be threaded. So right now we're threading on an AN fitting. I'm using this awesome UPR adjustable AN wrench, which is really awesome. I like it. Yeah, we're gonna tighten this one up, and then the turbo will be ready to actually go sit on its home, and we can mate it back with the turbine housing and call it good. So now, since those are both back on, guys, I still have the housing essentially loose, but now we get to mate them back together. Just being careful when we slide it in there, because what's going to happen is it's going to be held on just like that. But what we have to do is we have to make sure everything clears so that we have room. And then this is basically how we're going to clock the turbo. So basically all these are going to loosen up the exact same as we did on the other side. And we want to make sure the drain is virtually straight up and down, because that'll be the easiest for the oil to go in and go out the bottom. We're going to go ahead and put our exhaust side on, which means we're going to put our downpipe on. So if you look right here, we actually have our downpipe. Now we're going to be putting the wastegate out into the exhaust. Nothing's going to be popping out of the hood, so it literally just gets shoved down there, and then we just are going to line it up here like so, and put our V-band clamp on. So basically, you'll get the V-band on here, and you'll keep playing with its fitment until you get it right. This is our wastegate. This one's by TurboSmart. It's a TurboSmart Hypergate. Basically, it's going to sit just about like that. We're going to get it all situated. And same thing's going to happen. We're going to V-band it there and then V-band it here. And that's why this one's on a little movable, so that we could turn it and get it angled correctly. So when you do put your wastegate on, that goes on first. And that's what's going to sit in that hole, so it's locked in tight. Now your bigger clamp, that's the one that goes on the actual wastegate itself. So that goes on the bottom, and then your smaller one is going to go around the outlet. What this does is, this is actually what makes you essentially make boost. So here you go, guys. That's it, bolted together. All the V-bands are tight for the wastegate and for the turbo. So that's what it looks like sitting in the car. It's pretty dope. So unlike mine, where mine literally just goes straight up and out the hood, this one's not quite like that, which is pretty awesome. So next step, guys, that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install our oil scavenging pump. Now this bad boy is a big TurboWorks unit. This thing's hardcore, so it's going to pump a whole lot of oil. But it needs to be able to mount. So in order to mount it, we have this plate that comes with the kit. You're going to have to adjust these 4 rubber things on the bottom. And the kit is oriented just like so. And you get these 4 Allen-headed bolts. That's what secures it. They're pretty small, but that's what's going to actually secure it using the rubber mounts. That way we get less NVH. So I'm just going to put these 4 in, and I'll show you where it goes in the car. So we're going to use all AN fittings on our scavenging pump. So we got these, they're pipe threaded on one end. That's going to actually get put in on either side, just like so. And they are not going to screw all the way in, guys, nowhere near. So just understand that when you're going to do it, they're not going to screw all the way in. So keeping with our installation, we're going to go ahead and put on the oil return fitting to the top piece that goes into basically where you put your oil in. That's where the oil is going to come out of the scavenge pump, get pumped up to, and that's where we're essentially going to be refilling the engine with oil that the turbo steals. This one's super easy. Literally twist the sucker on like that. We put a little butyl tape on just to make sure. And we're going to put it on all the way, make sure it's down there. It's just a return, so this is mostly for aesthetics. But what's nice about that is once we loosen it, we can adjust the angle, and then we can have our line exactly where we want it to go. Now it's going to be hooked to probably not that one. It's going to have one of these on it. Now that's going to let us angle our return line basically wherever we want. So let's go ahead and mount this sucker. So right here's where we're going to mount our oil pump, guys. This is an 8mm. We've already taken it off. So take off the 8mm, pop your horn off, just let it dangle for now. The pump has those 2 extra holes in the side. We're going to line those up and put 2 bolts through the back. So as you guys can see right here, there's basically a spot weld that holds this piece together. We're actually going to drill that out to use it as another mounting point. So now that we have our holes drilled, we can go ahead and mount our oil pump. So this part we're doing at a later time than I probably would do it. If I were you guys, I would probably put this on before I put the turbo on, but this is the oil drain line. So this has to go to the AN fitting on the bottom of the turbo, and it's a push fitting so we can put our hose, our black hose, literally it'll just push on. So we're just gonna put that on and then tighten it up. So now that that fitting is tight, we're gonna go ahead and put our tube on. I literally just threaded it up next to the, basically the big hose that it connects to the water pump and along the fan. We're probably just gonna zip tie it in place so it doesn't hit anything and it's out of the way. But literally super easy. All I'm doing is shoving it on there like any regular rubber hose. So we have our drain line coming down here like this, guys. And the Turbo Works scavenging pump is super simple because it literally says in and out. So we're gonna put one of these fittings, as you can see, on, and we're gonna aim it kind of where we want it. And we're gonna pull this off a little bit later, but we're just kind of gonna aim where we want it for now. And as we put the hose down, we're trying to make room for everything else, so we're just gonna zip tie it into place where we want it. Now you can obviously use black zip ties, we'll probably go back and do that later, but we're gonna make sure that we have a spot where we want everything to run that's looking good. So it's probably gonna be something like that. So we'll use a couple zip ties, zip tie it in place, and then we'll cut her off and grease her up and make it happen. All right, cut it. So we went ahead and kind of eyeballed that up, giving ourselves a little extra room. Sprayed some lubricant on there, and then we're gonna shove it deep into the hose. Now, it is kind of a pain. This goes on super tight. Almost got it. There we go. But once you got it on, it looks really good. So with plenty of extra room, we can go ahead and put it on and then use our wrench to tighten her down. Always start your fittings by hand. Always. So remember this piece, guys, this is going to replace our oil fill cap. Pop our oil fill cap off. Go ahead and install that. Turn it to where we want it to be. And this is the fitting we're going to use on it. So we're just kind of aim it where we want it to go here, and we can tighten everything up. So we use that AN wrench. Where'd it go? So we'll put this on, and then we're just going to aim it where we want it to go. Now I'm going to route it basically underneath our coolant expansion tank and down behind the ABS sensor. So that's how it's going to go for us. But before we do that, as I'm putting this on, I'm going to take it off. I'm going to actually stick the other end of the hose on. Now that I have all this hose on here, I'm going to thread it down to where I want it to be. That way we know exactly how much we have and where to cut it off. So like I said, I'm going to thread it down through by the ABS. We'll pull it out and down there, and we'll figure out where to put it after that. So this keeps it out of the way, and we have loads of room to put it where we want. So now we'll tighten it up to the cap. And this is our oil return line from our scavenging pump. And this puts back all the oil that goes to your turbo. There we go, so we got that in. We'll tighten the cap down a little more. Perfect. And we have that aimed where we want it. We can go back to the bottom and put the next piece on. So now that we have this threaded where we want, we're going to basically push it to right here and tighten this one up. Now, the awesome part about where this is this will actually fit even if you have your stock fender flares, which this one doesn't because it's lowered, it just eats them up, but it will still fit. And it's a nice clean install, and this is basically gravity fed. This pump can run dry, it'd be just fine, but this is the lowest point in the entire system. So oil will literally come out of the turbo and with gravity get fed into the pump, even though it doesn't care. And then it'll shove the oil up through this tube and back into our top. So that is the oiling system. All we have to do now is wire it up. So on our oil sandwich plate, we're taking off the plugs because we're going to put on all the other, not filters, but we're going to put on everything else that we're installing. So that includes our oil feed line as our main piece. So we're going to mount our oil piece, our oil fitting line here on the bottom, closest to the exhaust because it's the one that can take the most heat. So the annoying part with these ones, guys, is that they literally, you have to thread the entire thing and it has to spin. So we're removing the MAF sensor from the old intake and we're going to install it on our new piping. It goes right there. These screws are provided in the kit. So we're going to make sure that end goes towards the air, which will be towards the blow off. So it's going to slide in just like so. We'll pull those out and install it. So the intake, guys, has these two plugs in it right there. They're like that. So these are for spraying nitrous or methanol or even technically a boost gauge you could run off of here. So basically we're going to put these plugs in it for now. So the next part we're going to install, guys, is actually going to be our blow-off valve. This is a teal unit. Good stuff. Basically, it comes with this rubber O-ring, and it's kind of a pain in the butt because you basically set it over it like this, and you kind of just have to hope that it stays, which it doesn't, ever. So, yeah, you're just gonna play with it until you can kind of get it on there, situated. Like so. And then your V-band goes around it to hold her on. So this part is extremely important, guys. We have these two nipples that go to our wastegate. The top one doesn't really matter. We're just gonna go ahead and stick it in there. But the bottom one really matters. So the bottom one is what actually tells the wastegate when to open. Now, that's important because that's what controls our boost. So if we just wanna run the car on wastegate pressure alone, meaning whatever spring is in here, it should be like a 6 or an 8 pound spring. What we're gonna do is just run literally a line from here to the intake tube or anywhere like that, because all that's gonna do is give us the boost. So whatever boost the turbo is making is gonna go into here. When it goes into there, once it hits 6 or 8 pounds, it's gonna open up, which is gonna let the exhaust flow out of here and stop it from entering the turbo as hard. So that is how you limit boost. So this one's very important. So we're getting it nice and tight. And then we're gonna have to run our vacuum lines to it, vacuum/boost reference lines to the bottom one. So we will run it from here either to up here, or we might fab this up. So we're gonna get some fittings and we'll come back. So this is the next piece we need. Went ahead and we got this at Ace Hardware. Basically it is a 3/4 and a 3/4 to a 1/2 T. So this is gonna go on the hose we put out of the water pump, basically like that. We're gonna put it down in here past the turbo a little ways, with the smaller side going up and over so it can make it to that one, which is the actual heater pipe. So we're gonna go ahead and throw this in. Literally guys, I'm just gonna go a couple inches down on that so it's past the turbo. I'm gonna cut it, put this in between, put it back together, put our hose clamps on, run the other end of this big 3/4 hose all the way up and under down there, and then our coolant is done and together. So you guys can see heater line, we put that one in, it runs down there and then down back around to that side of the turbo, and then we're gonna put it all back together. We'll run this side up next. So see how it runs that way and our T goes that way. Just enough clearance between the crank, we'll have it zip tied on, and we'll run the other hose underneath the downpipe and over here back up to the tank. Here we go, final fitment. Hose comes out down to a T. We got some room down in there. Goes down up into the bottom of our coolant tank. So our cooling side is done. Now it's time to do the cold side piping and mount the intercooler. So now guys, we're gonna go ahead and install the lower pipe. The right angled piece is gonna go down in first. And it's basically gonna sit right above your frame rail. And you're just gonna work it through like so until it's roughly like that. It's gonna be pointing basically straight down. So then this piece is gonna go on. So the next piece of piping we're putting on, we have the flexible joint. That's going to go on our throttle body. Like so. And then this piece of piping is going to go in just like this. So with our blow-off valve near the bottom. So we're going to tuck it underneath our hosing. And it goes in beside the ABS system. And you shove it in there nice and deep. This corner pops out perfectly for your blow-off valve to sit right just like that. And then we'll get the hose clamps and put the hose clamps over those to cinch those down. So something we forgot to do, guys, we have to put this banjo bolt, these two copper washers, and this piece onto our blow-off valve. So we're gonna go ahead and do that now. The other copper washer will go on that side, put it down on the top, and then we can just put it down nice and easy. This will end up spinning to a point where we want it, so that we can give it the boost reference. Really it's a vacuum reference because that opens up when the engine is on at vacuum. So here are the mounts and the brackets for the intercooler. So we're going to use these guys and we'll show you how to put the intercooler on the front. So pretty simple, guys. When you put the studs in, super simple, thread them in by hand, and then these nuts go over the top. So we got the smaller side goes on the passenger side, you can see like this, and the driver's side goes like that. Now these are gonna go in there. So we're gonna take out the bolt that's in there, which goes through the back, and we're gonna put ours on. That allows us to space it out exactly how we want. So we're gonna go ahead and undo those bolts and we'll stick them on. So those ones came out right there. They're a 13 millimeter. Use the deep well, works easy. Now it's pretty simple. We're just gonna thread that one in there. And it's gonna come out the back side. Once it's out the back side, guys, that's when we put our spacers on. So let me get this on here and we'll put the spacers on. So you guys can see I went ahead and put the spacers on. Now if you can see, that's angled. And the top is angled as well. They're angled so that they lock together. That way it won't spin and take anything off. So we're going to put that spacer on. Now we're going to go do this side. Same thing here on the passenger side. So we got both of those on. We got that started. Let's slide it in. A quick overview. That bottom pipe ends up just like that. Okay? So what you're going to do, you're going to shorten one of these to go in there. Nice 90, shorten it up, both ends. That'll go right there. It snakes up through there, comes out that bottom side, and you're gonna really shorten this other 45. That way you can get it on both the turbo and on your piping. So we're gonna tighten both those up. And once they're tight, we're going to go ahead and put the top piece on. We do have our intercooler mounted pretty loosely so that we have some wiggle room up and down. We did have to bend the bolts a little bit, purely because this car's been in an accident. So take a rubber mallet, give them a whack either way. That'll bend them, you know, the 1/4 inch that they need so that you can slip everything right on. So the next thing, guys, that I just went ahead and did was I just tightened up all the bolts on the back of the turbo that hold that cold side housing on. So all of these I went ahead and tightened up. Now, you see that's pretty close. So I actually took the throttle body off in order to get to this one and the one down there. But I was able to get to them with the throttle body off really easily using that 13mm ratcheting wrench. So that side is good. The turbo is all tight. We got both those on and tight. Now we just need to make our elbow for down here, put that on. So pretty simply, guys, I held this up on the pipe like so. I held that up on our pipe like so. Measured about where it should be. I always cut it twice. So the first cut should be a little long, and literally it's just with a razor blade. It's the easiest way to cut these things. So we'll cut it and then we'll see how that one fits. So this is basically what it should end up looking like, guys. Technically that way. You're gonna have a stubby end on this end, and then that end can be taller because you have a lot more room. That's a straight. So we're just gonna fight this until it goes up and in there. So there we go, guys. That's our lower on and tightened. Now we're gonna do our upper pretty easily, and obviously the tube just goes straight through there. Basically, the other 90 is just gonna right hook right here and end up about halfway through there. So we got the other 90. Like I said, it's basically gonna go straight, so we're just gonna kind of line it up. I'm gonna cut it, move it back a little bit, and then cut it about there. That should give us enough room to shove that thing through there and shove it onto the end. So we'll get the razor blade and cut it. All right, so that one just slid after we trimmed it. You can see it's not being pinched basically whatsoever. We got it tightened up, and we're gonna go ahead and put the last piece on. So we got it looking pretty good here, guys. We got both the upper and the lower intercooler piping on. It's all tight. To get this pipe in, you're going to lube that side up. I attached it here first, and then I shoved it down in, coming this way, rotated it in, got that side on, and then pushed this side down until it connected here. This is like basically a flex joint. So that allows it to, once it gets past there, just go shunk and basically slide in. So last little part we have to do, don't forget to hook up your MAF sensor, or the car will definitely not start. But I just want to do a final check over of everything. So we got all these bolts tight on our turbos. We have all of our coolant lines ran, and they're all tight. We have all of our cold side piping done all the way. We got plugs on the back. We got our MAF sensor installed. So for the cold side, we're basically just left at putting our filter on. Which, nice vibrant filter. Looking pretty good. So we'll go ahead, we'll tighten the filter on, and then I'll go ahead and I'll put the down pipe back on. I had to move the down pipe to put that water line on. So we'll put the down pipe back on, and we'll put the turbo blanket on, and then it will be time for the last part, which is boost reference, and vacuum lines, which is very, very important to make this thing not make moon boost. I'd say that's probably the biggest thing you guys have to watch out for. Once you're finished, just stop. Go take a break, go to bed, do it in the morning to finish. Do not try and just immediately start the car up. You need to take a break and then go over everything that you did to make sure you didn't miss one thing. You need to check over every nut, every bolt. So right now I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna tighten a few things up. So this last piece I'm doing right here on this side, guys. I already put the downpipe back on, just tightened it up. Nice and easy, no big deal. So we're putting on our Thermal Zero turbo blanket, and with this bad boy, literally we hooked it to the other side, wound it through, and we're just winding it over that a couple times, and then we're gonna snip the excess off. Because we don't need that all hanging around. So when you guys do your turbo blankets, okay, they don't have to be stupid tight, all right? Like, they're not made to be super tight. They're made to be, you know, kind of loose. It's just there to keep them from basically blowing off and essentially the wind, basically, you know, or getting caught and stuff. So literally just having them on tight enough that it doesn't fall off is all it needs to be. And I know the guys at Thermal Zero agree with me because I saw them post about that literally just a couple days ago. Doesn't need to be cinched down, just tight enough to hold its shape. So we just have to tighten up our other side over here, which is just gonna go down there. So we'll just put it on there. We'll adjust it a little bit, there we go. We'll give it a couple wraps around, essentially, and that'll be it. So the other thing that I did that I forgot to show you guys on video is I went ahead and used our 13mm to tighten these up, and we have our backs tightened on those. So this front intercooler is now quite solid. Everything is hooked up, everything is tightened. All we have left is our vacuum lines, which I'll show you how to run now. So we need one to go to the wastegate like we talked about earlier, our Turbo Smart, because that's what's actually gonna stop us from trying to make moon boost and blowing this poor little engine up. So this one is the most important one. So it has to go to a vacuum or a boost reference, okay? So we have the two here, one there, to one there, and to here. Don't have to worry about the top one. That's for something else. That'll basically, you can put something on there to make it hold more boost with a smaller spring. We're not gonna do that. We're just gonna go ahead and do this one. So I bought some vacuum line. Let me go get it. So basically, a whole bunch of vacuum line. There, it's done. Now it's going to take a couple different sizes, basically, because some of these lines are bigger than others. And what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to put a cap on this end and just use the small side to another T to go to the wastegate and to our Turbo Smart wastegate and to our teal blow-off valve, and we should be good. So basically what I did, guys, I went and found a T that fit that piece of vacuum line and a nipple to fit over the larger side over here. So I'll shove, put the nipple over the larger side right here. So I'll go ahead and put that on right now. So now that that is on, we literally just have to run, this is the same size. Now that that's on, these are the same size. So we just have to run a line from here to here, and then it's gonna basically tee off, and one's gonna go down here and over there. So I'm gonna mess with it for a few minutes and decide where I think the best routing spot is, and then we'll go. Okay, so first thing I did, guys, was literally just connect it to the blow-off valve. I loosened the top, spun it, and then tightened it again, so it's just pointing at the fan shroud, not hitting anything. So then I ran the line, so that's the fan shroud. I ran the line straight to our wastegate. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it right here, and I'm gonna put the T in right there. That way we can run straight to there. Now that that's in, I think we're just going to run the line right underneath the turbo right there. And I tucked this line down, stuck that piece onto the firewall so it's attached. We're going to tuck it around just like this, and I'll zip tie it right here. That way it's held, and we'll just run the line under and under the turbo right to there. Now what that does is it gives us this nice short line. Now right here is where we can actually run and put our boost controller. Now, because if we do that, the boost controller will actually let us, because it's just a manual one, it'll let us adjust the boost and it'll sit right here, which will be awesome. So as you can see, got plenty of slack in here. It runs under the intake tube, under the turbo, and right out to here. So we're going to snip it right there and attach it. Then our vacuum lines will be done. So basically, for all intents and purposes, the kit is now done. All of our vacuum lines are ran, all of our oil lines are ran, all of our turbo reference boost lines are ran, all of our water and coolant lines are ran, our intercooler is installed, everything's tight. So basically, if we were to throw a tune on it, the car would start up right now. So the next piece of the kit is this other half of basically the downpipe. So what we have right now, as you can see, stops about there. So I'll have to have somebody hold this for me, but essentially this other half of the downpipe goes over there, connects like that, comes back down here, sits in roughly this area, and then that last piece over there will connect to, or over the axle pipes. So the final portion of installing this turbo kit, guys, is the downpipe and the Y pipe. So as you can see, the Y pipe V-band's right here, and then we have another V-band up in there. It was basically impossible to show you how we did it, but the key is, you see there's light up there. We removed the battery box and the battery, which gains us access from the top. So one person held it from the bottom and the other person put it together from the top. And then, you know, we just slapped on 2 bungs really quick so that we have access for both the wideband O2 sensor gauge that he's going to be running and another one so that I can use it on the dyno, so that we can just make sure everything's running smooth and that we're getting accurate readings and everything's logged correctly. So the other thing that has to happen is this Y pipe, depending on what exhaust you're running, may or may not fit. So what you're going to do is you're going to secure it up like we did and take it to an exhaust shop. We're not an exhaust shop by any means, so we're using this metal strapping to hold it up so that it doesn't fall down, and we'll do that for the front as well. There'll be just a gap of about 1 inch, and the sizing is wrong to meet up to, I think these are stock exhaust tubing, so it doesn't meet up correctly. It's like 1 inch to a 2 inch gap. It has to be taken to an exhaust shop so they can correctly fab that up. Don't let them just weld it together, guys, okay? Make sure they put something that can be unbolted, like a V-band or something of that nature, or a donut, something so that you can take it off in pieces and it's not one long piece. That would be in a lazy exhaust shop that would be cheap. Don't take it there, take it someplace good. But we're going to get all this situated up and we're going to fire her up. Tune is loading. So we're sitting in the car, we got the tune loading. We're running this car on HP tuners, so everything's going to be tuned on HP tuners, and then we're going to have an N gauge for the customer. We don't need to use the N gauge while we're tuning it, and we prefer to use HP tuners, especially while dyno tuning. Not purely, but my biggest reason, honestly, is the speed of write time. I don't have to wait here 5 to 25 minutes, and it's probably going to get an error, one of the 10, uploads I do if it's an SCT. With HP tuners, it's 2 minutes every time, and it works dang near every time, 2-minute uploads. So it really speeds up what I'm doing on the dyno. So we got 42 seconds left, and then we're going to do our first startup, and that's the first tune, the first startup, one base file, whatever you want to call it. And then we're going to check for leaks, make sure we don't have any exhaust leaks that we can hear, make sure that the oil is flowing like it should be, etc., etc., etc. Alright, so here you go, guys. This is going to be the first startup on the NPG Turbo Kit. Let's see how it sounds. It is our base file, and we are running basically with an open Y pipe. So seems to be smoothing out. We'll get the idle all the way done, but looking good. We're burning off some oil and everything else that is on the piping, and it'll all get heated up and work out, but it sounds good. Alright guys, we're getting our idle log done. Car's looking good, sounding good. Looks good. Alright, we're staying at temperature. No boost. There we go, guys. Starting to bake all of the oil and sweat off of it, but that is a good looking ride. Tuned yesterday, guys. Everything's sorted out. The car's running absolutely fantastic. It's making about 8 psi on wastegate pressure alone, and that basically it kind of creeps to about 9, and right at the end we barely see it hit 10 at the very end of like 7,500 RPM. So this is really an 8 to 9 psi tune and run. Now, like I said, we ran it all day yesterday. The best number we got was our last run there at the end. It was 473 horsepower and 426 foot-pounds of torque. Now that is on 93 octane fuel. So we let it cool off overnight. It hasn't been ran this morning. We're just gonna let it warm up really quick so it's ready to go. And then we're gonna make what we call a hero pass. So nothing has been changed since that run. We're just gonna give it a shot and see if it does any better whatsoever, having everything cooled down so the turbo's not heat soaked, the intercooler's not heat soaked, the intake's not heat soaked, none of that. So we'll see if we can get any more than 473 horsepower. Then we're gonna swap the fuel to our C85 by VP Racing race fuel, and we should get over 500 again on 8 to 9 psi of boost. So let's do it, let's see what we can get. Guys, now on that run the car made 475.9 horsepower and 424.4 foot-pounds of torque. So basically what that tells us is we had it pretty dead on last night. We made like 2 more horsepower, we made like a pound less torque. So that means it was running really good last night. The intercooler is doing its job. It's not going to do any better than that with this fuel. So it's time to swap to C85, but first check out our graphs. Nice and smooth, easy runs, guys. That is on smoothing 1, 8 to 9 psi.
All right, first C85 run, what do you think it's gonna make?
We'll go, well, I don't know if I can go easy on it, but 502, what do you think?
502? I'm thinking 490.
490? You don't think it's gonna gain that much?
Well, seems that we're both wrong.
Yeah, so in a good way, we were both wrong. It made 521 horsepower and 460 foot-pounds of torque, guys. 460 foot-pounds of torque. That's what's up. That run, guys, with a 25% load added. So we're gonna swap it to inertia, which means no load. And we'll see what it'll do with just inertia. We might see a little bit more horsepower because there's nothing pulling back on it, but we might see a little less torque because it's not able to kind of build up to that like 9, almost 10 PSI of boost. So let's see what it does. I'm excited. Maybe 525. Guys, 525.9 horsepower and 464.8 foot-pounds of torque. This thing is done. Let's get it out of here and let's let the customer enjoy it, ripping up these South Florida streets. We'll catch you next time. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We're gonna keep turboing these Cyclones. Look forward to our next video, which should be my Cyclone, Project Hurricane. After this hurricane hits Florida, we're gonna be shooting for 600 plus horsepower in ours. Let's do it. All right, guys, so we're taking the car on a little bit of a cruise. Let's just kind of see what it does. I mean, I know if I just hit the gas, it's just gonna burn rubber, so. It immediately breaks the tires loose just by punching it. So, yeah, this thing is fast, guys. It's fast. That's just part throttle. Make sure it cruises well. Oh, good. What was that? You're gonna enjoy this, man. So there you go, guys. This is it. We got the front bumper back on. Peeking through there is our intercooler. Looking good. So that was your install, your how-to of the NPG Turbo Kit on an 11 to 14 3.7 Mustang. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions, just hit us up. And if you want a turbo kit or got other questions about installing the turbo kit, just hit us up. Comment below, let us know what you guys want to see next. If we missed anything, that way we can clear it up in the comments and in the description so nobody misses anything. We'll check you guys next time. Like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you then.